If the 16 playoff teams are an indicator, the Utah Jazz are on the right track. A long track, but the right track. Next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $250 in bonus bets when you have your first $5 bet. All right. Thank you to Leaf Tulane, who filled in for last week. Got some thoughts later this week I'll do on shows he did. He was great. Today's show, late game watch. We're going to do late game watch every close game of the playoffs. We've really only had 2 late game watches so far. That Warriors game was an almost late game watch, but the Clipper Nuggets game we'll get into. I do love early playoffs, a bunch of stat notes. I think can tell you a lot more than the recency bias of the outcome. And is better analysis than some of the kind of insanity I think you'll hear kind of in single small game reactions. Though game ones of the first round were not particularly close. So we'll do some stat notes from game one. We're going to start the show by showing you that the Utah Jazz are on the right track. There are 16 playoff teams right now. Let's look at how these 16 playoff teams got there. And what you're going to hear is that there are kind of 4 or 5 routes by which you can build a franchise. And the routes that have been most successful is the same route the Utah Jazz are on right now. Okay. So the 4 routes I feel like you can use here are 1, tank and trade. Okay. Tank and trade. Sounds good. So we'll use that. 2, market power. 3, lucky draft. And 4, like staying competitive and just, never relenting and just staying right there the whole way. Right? Okay. That's kind of the model there. There's maybe one other team that has a somewhat of an exception, but not really. So let's look at it. Western Conference. Oklahoma City. Tank and trade. Tanked. Lost a bunch of games. Got some draft picks. Unbelievable Shai Gilgeous-Alexander trade, which also led them to Jalen Williams. Tank and trade. Tank, trade, and let's give them a little bit more credit than that. Player development. Okay? I think there's some pieces here that you have to say. It's not just you tank. And this is where, tanking works. And I've been saying to everyone, yeah, tanking works. On the other end, let's not simplify it so much that all you have to do is lose a bunch of games in a row for 3 straight years, lose 180 games for 3 years, and you have it. Lou Dort played, last night was weird because they won by 50, but Lou Dort, they've developed. Isaiah Joe was lost by Philadelphia, they developed. And Aaron Wiggins is a really nice player. They've developed. So tank, trade, and develop. Give them credit. Houston went with tank, trade, the Alfred Şengün trade, and vets. Okay, so a little variation different, but Houston tanks and trades. Lakers, market power, LeBron, and trading to get Luka. Denver, simply the greatest draft pick in the history of the NBA. That's truly what Denver did. Denver got Jamal Murray in a night, by being in a good draft position. But the fact of the matter is they draft Nikola Jokić in the single greatest draft pick in the history of the NBA. And to the luck of all Denver fans, that team has not, been below 500 since the 16-17 season. They have been competitive the whole way, but Jokić became their best player in the 15-16 season. He's led that team in win shares for now 10 straight years. And if you go back, they actually kind of almost tanked under Brian Shaw and Melvin Hunt. They after George Karl was gone, and that's how they had 3 straight years of 30 wins, but they had the greatest draft pick of all time. Clippers, market power, right? Kawhi Leonard, at the time Paul George, market power. Minnesota, tank and trade. They tank, they go get some draft picks, they get Anthony Edwards, and they trade for Rudy Gobert. The Warriors have Steph Curry. And they got Steph Curry with a great draft pick. The Warriors one is actually kind of hard. They deserve great credit for just incredible drafting of Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. It's really what they deserve. But I could also claim pretty easily here, if you go back, tank. 29 wins, 26 wins, 36 wins, lockout year, 23 wins. Right? So the way they get Steph Curry is they get themselves in the draft position to do it. But they draft one of the most incredible players of all time in Steph Curry. And Memphis tanks, hasn't yet to trade. Memphis is missing the trade and some of the development stuff that Oklahoma City has, the trade maybe, and some of the vets, the trade that Minnesota has. Right? They have Bane and they have Jackson and they have Morant, but they haven't added any veterans to that group. They haven't really developed their own talent. They're kind of missing that piece. If we go to the East, Cleveland, tank and trade. Tank, and then trade for Donovan Mitchell. Boston just fleeces Brooklyn. That's really, they get Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in the same trade for the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce deal, and they fleece Brooklyn in a trade. And they get awfully lucky with the lottery. And then they make some nice deals on the backside of it they deserve a lot of credit for. So I don't really know where Boston fits in this. They fleeced the young, stupid owner. They went and found the pigeon of fantasy football and went and got him. Cleveland, tank and trade, as I said. Sorry. New York, market power and give them credit on great talent evaluation. Jalen Brunson, they evaluated the talent and they got it done. Indiana had 3 poor years of 30 wins in there, but I'm going to just give Indiana, they've just kept pushing and trying to be competitive the whole time. Milwaukee, one of the great draft picks of all time in Giannis. Who's this team? Detroit, tank and vets. Kind of similar to Houston, tank and vets. Orlando, tank and no trade, similar to Memphis. They haven't done the pieces. Gary Harris, they've had for a while. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, maybe they're trying. It has one. And then Miami, I'm just going to go with they've stayed competitive heat culture. So there's 16 playoff teams. 7 of the 16 are tank and trade. Tank, trade, and vets. Tank, trade, and develop. Tank, that's the core of it. 3 of them are market power. That was not an option for us. 3 of them are just incredible draft picks. Jokić, Steph, and Giannis. And they did that without the tank. All 3 of them. One is an amazing trade, which is Boston. I don't even know how to characterize it. And 2 of the 16 playoff teams, Indiana and Miami, have just stayed competitive. So if those are the models by which teams are being built, and you're the Utah Jazz, seems like we're on the right route. We'll expound on it more when we continue next on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross. Also in Logan, the Chevy trucks, the Silverado and the Colorado. It's Americana right there, my friends. The Chevy trucks are made in a way that is literally different and better than everyone else on the planet. And when you continue to look at what the Chevy trucks bring, that Silverado gives you all the power you could ever imagine, and the Colorado gives you the zippy truck you can imagine. It's right there, getting you ready for it. Plus, you have the SUVs, and that includes the 2024 Chevy Tahoe and the 2024 Suburban, and both of them are 0 APR for 60 months. That's 0 APR for 60 months right now. So take advantage of Truck Month with the 2025 Chevy Silverado 1500 Turbo Max at 2.9 for 72, and take advantage of the 0% APR for 60 months on the Suburban and the Tahoe, all at Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross and in Logan. Email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com to get your Murdoch Chevy experience, the VIP experience you deserve as a Locked On listener. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. It's playoff season, and playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. They swoosh, you score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more in a playoff game, wow, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. That's right. Place an order of $20 or more. Use this code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms do apply. That's right. What's your go-to move? Are you ordering wings? Reliving the highlights? That's right. When someone goes off for 50. So here's how you play. Sign up for DoorDash. Unlock this. More exclusive deals. All for those of you DoorDash members. When any player scores 50 in a playoff game, Dash members can grab a free 3-piece crispy chicken tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with $20 order and code WINGSTOP50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms do apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And we've got the daily newsletter at Locked On Daily. Click on Locked On Jazz to get your free daily Locked On newsletter. Leaf Tulane, great to have him. He's going to be back with you here a few times. I've got a presentation I need to make coming up here. I've got a trip I've got to take here. He's going to really walk you toward draft day in June with all of his draft knowledge, which will be great for everybody involved. So if that's where our 16 playoff teams are, and you're the Utah Jazz, your choices are you can just stay competitive. Just battle, stay competitive, never let go, like Indiana and Miami have. I'm not sure you can do that in the West as well as you can do it in the East, by the way. It's worth noting. You can stay moderately competitive and just try to get lucky. Can you get Steph Curry, Giannis, or Nikola Jokić? It's not unheard of, right? I mean, so Steph Curry is the oldest of that bunch, and Steph was drafted in the 2009 draft. So in the last 16 years, 3 players have been drafted. Let's call it 15 years. 3 players have been drafted in the last 15 years that are historic out of non-top 5 picks. Now, the Warriors were 7, so they had to be somewhat bad. And obviously, Jokić was in the 40s, and Giannis was in the teens. But that could be a model. We're going to stay competitive, and we're going to try to see if we can hit on the one every 5-year super incredible player that's in the NBA. And the fact is that in one of those years, only 6 other teams had a chance for him, and they blew it. And the Giannis year, 15 other teams had a chance for him, and they blew it with some medical records and issues along with it. Jazz were amongst those. Dennis Lindsey it was his first year of the draft, the 15th pick of the draft. We didn't pull the trigger. We hit Rudy later in that draft, pretty great. But we ended up taking Trey Burke at 9. And the picks before Giannis are incredible. Anthony Bennett, Victor Oladipo, Otto Porter, Cody Zeller, Alex Len, Nerlens Noel, Ben McLemore, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Trey Burke, C.J. McCollum, Michael Carter-Williams, Steven Adams, Kelly Olynyk, and Shabazz Muhammad. There is not a single All-Star game played by any of the top 14 players in that draft, and Giannis goes 15, and there's not a regular rotation player in the NBA other than Tim Hardaway Jr. that's drafted between Giannis and Rudy Gobert. It's a crazy draft. Literally, 2 players in that draft turned out to be any good at all. Giannis and Rudy. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope with the 8th pick it's been fine. C.J. McCollum with the 10th pick has been good. Dennis Schroeder literally has played the 5th most amount of minutes of any player in that draft. It's a disaster draft. And Giannis was 15 and Rudy was 27. It's incredible. Incredible. So you can do that. We can't play market power. So that's not an option for us. We could sit around and try to pull off another amazing heist like Danny Ainge did the last time. I'm sure we are right now. It just hasn't happened yet. Or we could stay competitive. Since of the 16 playoff teams, 13 of them are a viable model for us to choose from. And 7 of the 13 took tank and trade, tank and vets, tank and develop, tank and trade. Seems to me we're on the right track. Seems to me if I'm sitting in a front office and I'm looking and analyzing where the NBA is and how teams are building, with Oklahoma City, with Houston, with Minnesota, with Memphis, with Cleveland, with Orlando, with Detroit, have all done. If I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, seems like the most viable choice for me to make. It's going to be a tank. You're going to have to make some trades. You got to develop vets. I think in Orlando and Memphis, the lesson is don't just tank and sit. Don't tank and sit. They've tanked and sat and have not added or done much around it. And that's Oklahoma City has really tank, trade, and now vets. Caruso, Harkenstein at the right time. Oklahoma City's really pretty perfect. All right, bunch of stat notes from the playoff games and then a little late game watch. Let's start with the Denver LA Clippers game. Game 2 of that. Is that tonight? What is tonight? Yes. Okay. So this is for tonight. Clippers had an 18% turnover rate. That was the difference in that game. But if I'm Clippers, I'm a little concerned because they shot 57% effective field goal percentage and Denver shot 48% and they lost. Harden and Kawhi had unbelievable shooting nights and they lost. Interesting little note. Denver had a 1.53 offensive rating on post-ups going to Jokić. We'll get into the strategy of this one in late game watch. Denver wins this game because they're in transition 23 times to the Clippers 11. Look for the Clippers in this game to go heavy to the Zubac roll game. On 24 picks between Zubac and Harden, they averaged 1.38 points per pick and roll. That's incredible. Let me put that in perspective. In half-court offense in the NBA in the regular season, if you're in the half court and you're at a point of possession, it's good. The number for the season was 97.8 points per 100 possessions. In the playoffs in day 1, it's 95. So if you're over a point of possession, you're doing something right. The Zubac Harden pick and roll was at 137. The Murray Jokić pick and roll was at 1.29 on 35 pick and rolls. And we'll get into the late game watch at all the adjustments that were made late by the Clippers. We'll see how early they go to them in the next game. So if you watch tonight, keep an eye on how much transition Denver gets over the Clippers. If I'm the Clippers, I'm concerned about that game, this matchup. And we'll get into the X's and O's. But the Zubac pick and roll game and the Murray Jokić combination both were very successful in that game. The other game tonight is Detroit, New York. I think I have that right. This one's interesting because both teams actually shot it great. They didn't pass at all in that game, and they both shot it great. What was really the number that jumped out to me when I analyzed the stats on this one is Cade Cunningham's average shot effective field goal percentage. So it's called QSQ, quantified shot quality, was 41% EFG. So that includes three-point shots. In other words, Cade Cunningham got terrible looks. JB Bickerstaff has got to do something to get Cade Cunningham some looks. The other thing is that Detroit has no isolation game at all. So how Detroit, when offenses break down as teams get to know your plays in the series and things of that nature, is going to be interesting. Two bad signs for Detroit. That Cade is not getting good looks and that they have no isolation game. Very, very few passes thrown in that series. All right, Minnesota Lakers, quick thoughts. Golden State, Houston, quick thoughts coming. Plus late game watch of Clippers, Denver, which was one of the most interesting strategic games I've seen in a long time in the NBA. So we'll have that one coming for you as we continue here on Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. Get into the action. The NBA playoffs, as you know, are here. All the postseason fun and excitement is here for you as well. So get into the action with FanDuel and enjoy all you can with this incredible deal right now. FanDuel, if you win your first $5 bet with FanDuel, you win $250 in bonus bets. That's right. Place your first $5 bet. If you win, $250 in bonus bets. FanDuel makes it easy. Picking your favorite team or driving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel also has so many ways for you to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into single game parlays for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's $250 in bonus bets today with FanDuel. It is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast in the Utah Jazz. We're going to have a little fun. I think we're going to do this in segment 2 every day, but I kind of forgot about it today. We're going to do this every day until the draft. Are we ready for our daily tankathon lottery simulation? Comes in 3, 2, 1. The Utah Jazz get the third pick of the NBA draft. New Orleans gets 1, Cooper, Flagg, and Zion Williamson together, unless they're going to trade Zion. Philadelphia gets 2, Utah 3, Washington 4, Charlotte 5, Brooklyn 6, Toronto 7 on order. Phoenix goes to Houston at 9. Sacramento goes to Atlanta at 13. Atlanta goes to San Antonio at 14. No surprises. The two teams that jumped were New Orleans and Philadelphia in the lottery, and Utah gets the third pick of the draft. And if that's the case, that'll be super interesting because the third pick, as I think was talked about by Leaf last week, is either Ace Bailey out of Rutgers or maybe the kid out of Baylor or maybe somebody else, but that one gets super interesting. We'll do that each and every day, analyze where the Jazz would go with that. And what to. All right. Minnesota Lakers blowout. Lakers offensive rating, or Minnesota's offensive rating was a 134. They cannot replicate that. They went 21 of 42 from 3. This game is honestly more shot variance than anything I saw. This one, I think game 2 will be a little closer than we think. Naz Reid and Jade McDaniels went nuts. The Lakers could not get anything going with their drive game or their pick and roll game at all. They actually had a little luck with their isolation game. I really think you're just going to get back to them pulling Rudy out on the floor and trying to beat Rudy in space. We're going to get right back to that as we have in every playoff series. This game was really, truly shot quality game. The Lakers pick and roll game was 0.68 points per possession. When the Timberwolves were soft in drop, it was 0.22. So the Lakers have no pick and roll game. They have no big that puts a threat on Rudy. They don't have a popping big like Rui Hachimura. Someone doesn't really threaten you. The Lakers they're going to have to go back to off-ball action, things of that nature, and move Rudy out of the middle of the floor and then get into just a space game, which can be interesting. It makes playing Jared Vanderbilt really hard. It makes plays Jackson Hayes really hard. But look for the Lakers to literally go to the Tyronn Lue space game look. All right, Warriors, Houston. Houston's offense, we've been saying this for a long time in the show, is a problem. They're 0.944 offense. The Warriors' shot quality is 2 percentage points better. Like, that's a lot to overcome. Houston took 87 shots to the Warriors, 76 shots, and still lost. No half-court Houston action was at over 0.8 points per possession. Houston's half-court game was a 0.655 last night. They got 43% of their misses as offensive rebounds and still lost. I don't know what they do on this. They ran 15 pick and rolls where they tried to run a pop. They scored 2 points. Jabari Smith's like their only pick and roll pop big. According to the numbers of Second Spectrum, Houston did not score all game on a Golden State Warriors switch in the pick and roll. That's a crazy note. So we'll see. All right, late game watch. The Clippers-Denver series is one of the most interesting things because of Russell Westbrook and Chris Dunn. They're both good, active defensive players, active players. I don't know if Westbrook's a good defensive player. I'm still lost on Westbrook. Neither of them can shoot, and neither of them are being guarded at all. The Clippers did the most interesting things I have seen done on the Jokić-Murray pick and roll in the final 7 minutes of this game, 2 of regulation and 5 of overtime. So the first thing they started doing was hard hedging on Murray, and Chris Dunn would just leave Russell Westbrook and guard Jokić. And then they would zone up 2 guys in the bottom to deal with the 3 guys. Denver responded by then having Jokić be the point guard to run the pick and roll, and Clippers weren't quite sure what to do with that. Then Denver would run the pick and roll with Jokić, 2-man game, double on Murray, third guy to Jokić, and that's where they hit Westbrook on the open 3 in the corner. So then the Clippers made another adjustment, which is they actually just started doubling Murray prior to getting into the action with Jokić and bringing a third guy to Jokić. So Dunn would leave Westbrook, never guard him at any point in the entire possession. They would just double Murray the minute he comes across half court, get the ball out of his hands, but Jokić would be guarded. So then the ball would never get to Jokić. Or if it did, it would slow Denver up to get there. Pretty fascinating stuff. One note on Westbrook's corner 3 that he did hit. Westbrook this last year on corner 3s shot 43%, I believe. Westbrook's actually a pretty good corner 3 shooter. I don't see. Whereas Chris Dunn, who's being left wide open in the corner for the Clippers, is a 34% corner 3 shooter. I don't know the Clippers can keep playing Chris Dunn. His lack of offenses. They ran a beautiful double stagger right to left, and Jamal Murray literally just stayed in the paint the entire time, unguarding Chris Dunn, and it forced Harden to go to Dunn. Clippers offense is this is the same problem they've had since this team's been built. It's so deliberate. It's almost like, am I going to go or are you going to go? And then if they do go, if it's Harden or Kawhi, it's so slow and deliberate they get late in the shot clock. The adjustment Denver made in the overtime that was super interesting is when Murray gets into the pick and roll with Jokić, so now two guys have come to Murray. Dunn has left Westbrook to go to Jokić. They're up top. There's three guys guarding there too. Westbrook, instead of staying in the corner, is flashing to like the free throw line, catching, and now he has a 3-on-2 with Westbrook in the middle and two guys and the two Clipper defenders on the back side of their double team. Now you have to trust Westbrook to make a good decision. But this series, from a tactical standpoint, young coach Adelman in his first playoff game ever against Ty Lue's one of the best adjusters, really interesting. Really, really interesting. All right, glad to be back. Thanks to Leaf. We got a bunch of stuff. We'll start some of our number stuff on the breakdown. We've got the lottery coming. We'll start watching college players. All sorts of fun stuff coming. Locked on Jazz, driving you all the way to our May 12th lottery. I think it's May 12th. And our June draft. We got 2 months of madness ahead of us here on Locked on Jazz. If you haven't followed me on socials, please do it. DLock09. If you haven't followed the show yet, please subscribe or follow. If you like anything you got today, a 5-star review is much appreciated. And sign up for the daily newsletter at Locked On Daily. We now send you on video to the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA on YouTube. On audio, check out Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night.